There are moments in life when you stand at a crossroads, when the universe presents you with a choice that will define your future. This was not one of those moments. This was the moment when Lily realized that chromatic paste was basically radioactive finger paint with an attitude problem, and that 8 different species of alien children left unsupervised for approximately 12 minutes could create a disaster that defied the laws of physics and possibly several interstellar treaties. The classroom looked like a bomb had gone off in a paint factory. No, scratch that. It looked like a paint factory had declared war on a glitter mine, and both sides had lost spectacularly. Lily stood in the doorway, hands on her hips, surveying the carnage with the weary expression of someone who'd seen this rodeo before, just usually with human children, and significantly less bioluminescence. Her brown hair was pulled back in a ponytail that had started the day neat and professional, but now listed to one side like a ship taking on water. Her standard-issue station jumpsuit, once a crisp navy blue, now sported streaks of orange, purple, and something that might have been green or might have been alive. The jury was still out. "Creative expression time," she muttered to herself, stepping carefully over a puddle of what the supply manifest cheerfully labeled as non-toxic multi-species art medium. The manifest was a liar. Nothing that glowed that particular shade of pink, while making a faint humming noise, could be entirely non-toxic. They said it would be educational. They said it would promote cross-cultural understanding. "Miss Lily! Miss Lily!" a small voice chirped from somewhere near the ceiling. Lily didn't even look up. "Ticky, get down from the light fixture." "But I can see everything from up here." "That's wonderful, honey. Get down anyway before you electrocute yourself, and I have to explain to your parents why their child is extra crispy." There was a skittering sound, 6 limbs moving in practiced coordination, and Ticky descended the wall like a spider who'd had way too much sugar. The Mushkari child was about 3 feet tall when standing upright, with 6 articulated limbs that could rotate in directions that made human engineers weep with envy. His skin was a mottled gray-green, and his eyes, all 4 of them, sparkled with the kind of mischief that transcended species boundaries. "It wasn't my fault," Ticky announced, landing on the floor with a soft thump. "It never is," Lily replied, not unkindly. She'd learned in her first week that assigning blame in a multi-species classroom was like trying to nail jelly to a wall. Messy, pointless, and ultimately someone ends up crying. "Where's Hux?" Ticky's eyes swiveled in different directions, a Mushkari tell that meant he was absolutely about to lie. I don't know." "Ticky. Maybe behind the reading corner?" "What's he doing behind the reading corner?" "Hunting the mop." Lily closed her eyes and counted to 5. Not 10. She didn't have that kind of time. "The mop is not prey." Nobody told Hux that. She had to concede the point. Hux was a Krelix, and the Krelix were what the galactic community politely called apex predator species, and what everyone else called those guys with too many teeth who make you nervous in elevators. Hux himself was only 5 years old in Krelix years, which translated to roughly human kindergarten age, but he already stood 4 feet tall with scales the color of gunmetal and eyes that could track movement faster than most species could process thought. The fact that his current nemesis was a cleaning implement bothered precisely no one except Lily. "Hux, buddy, come out from behind there." A low growl rumbled from the reading corner, a nest of cushions and digital tablets that had been, up until this morning, organized by language and difficulty level. Now it looked like a tornado had argued with a hurricane, and both had decided to take it out on literacy. "Hux, the mop is not going to fight back." "It moved," came the growled response. "That's because I moved it. It challenged me." Lily pinched the bridge of her nose. Teaching human kindergarteners had prepared her for many things. The questions that had no answers, the bizarre logic, the sudden emotional meltdowns over the wrong color of snack cup. What it had not prepared her for was explaining to a predator species that inanimate objects were not, in fact, challenging them to ritual combat. "The mop surrenders," she said, making her voice serious and formal. "It acknowledges your superior hunting skills and begs for mercy." There was a pause. Then Hux emerged from behind the cushions, his tail swishing in satisfaction. In his clawed hands, he held the mop like a trophy. "I have defeated it." "Yes, you have. You're very fierce. Now put it down gently, gently, Hux, because we're going to need it." From across the room came a sound that can only be described as concentrated joy, manifesting as a squeal. Pomo, the Otharian child who looked like someone had taken a teddy bear, made it 3 feet tall, given it the strength of a small bulldozer, and decided that adorable and capable of property damage weren't mutually exclusive concepts, had discovered the soap bubbles. Not just discovered them. She had apparently decided that soap bubbles were her new religion. "Miss Lily, they're floating. They're floating, and they're shiny, and they pop, and then they're gone. But then there's more." Lily turned to see Pomo, covered head to toe in white fluffy fur that was now also covered in soap foam, creating a bubble mountain that was rapidly approaching structural instability. Her large dark eyes were wide with wonder, and her little paws were moving so fast they were practically a blur as she generated bubble after bubble after bubble. "Pomo, sweetie, that's enough bubbles." "But there can never be enough bubbles." It was a fair point, philosophically speaking. Lily had to admire the absolutism. "Okay, but maybe we can have slightly fewer." Oh no. The bubble mountain collapsed. It didn't just collapse, it avalanched. A wave of soap foam spread across the classroom floor like a slow-motion tidal wave made of clean-smelling regret. Tiki, still standing next to Lily, tilted his head. "Is this bad?" "Define bad." "Worse than the chromatic paste incident?" "The chromatic paste incident is still happening. We're living in the chromatic paste incident. This is just a new chapter." That's when the door chimed. In all the chaos, the glowing paint, the mop hunting, the bubble apocalypse, Lily had completely forgotten about the inspection. How does one forget about an inspection scheduled by the Galactic Childhood Development Institute? Easily, it turns out, when one is managing 8 different species of children who view classroom rules as interesting suggestions rather than actual boundaries. The door slid open with a pneumatic hiss that sounded to Lily's ears remarkably like the universe laughing at her. Calmoth stood in the doorway. Now, Calmoth was what humans would call an insectoid, though that term didn't really do justice to the sheer presence of a fully grown Krellix administrator. He stood nearly 8 feet tall, with a chitinous exoskeleton that gleamed deep purple under the station's lighting. His compound eyes could see in spectrums that humans couldn't even imagine, and his mandibles clicked in complex patterns that his translator necklace converted into flawless galactic common. Right now, those mandibles were clicking in what Lily had learned to recognize as profound distress. "Teacher Lily," the translator said, somehow managing to convey disappointment in a mechanical voice. "The inspection is scheduled to begin in 2 hours." "I'm aware," Lily said, trying to sound professional while standing in ankle-deep soap foam with a child literally hanging from the ceiling lights in the background. Tiki had apparently decided the floor was lava, and another child standing victorious over a defeated mop. Calmoth's eyes swiveled, taking in the full scope of the disaster. The chromatic paste on the walls, the overturned supply bins, the mysterious stains on the ceiling. Seriously, how did anything get on the ceiling? The children, all 15 of them, were in various states of chaos and messiness. Firo, the small aquatic species who needed a moisture suit to survive outside water, had somehow gotten his suit stuck in a storage compartment and was making distressed gurgling sounds. Lunix, the insectoid with translucent wings, was trying to help, but mostly just buzzing around anxiously, which was making the situation worse. Pix, the gelatinous child who could technically change shape, had gone into panic mode and was currently a quivering blob under a desk. "This is," Calmoth began, his mandibles clicking rapidly as his translator searched for the right word, "unprecedented." "I prefer to think of it as memorable," Lily offered. "The Galactic Education Committee will be arriving for a surprise inspection to evaluate whether the multi-species integration program should continue." "I thought you said it was in 2 hours. How is it a surprise if we know about it?" Calmoth's antennae twitched in what might have been irritation, or might have been the insectoid equivalent of a migraine forming. "It is a surprise to the children. We are not meant to know. However, I received an unofficial communication from a colleague who thought it would be kind to warn us." Translation: someone in the committee wanted to see if they'd panic and make things worse. "How thoughtful," Lily said dryly. "Indeed." Calmoth stepped carefully into the room, his legs navigating the bubble foam with the precision of someone who really didn't want to slip and fall on his dignity. "Teacher Lily, I must be direct. The committee has concerns about human teaching methods. They believe that your species' approach to childhood education is too chaotic." "Chaotic?" "Undisciplined, unstructured, prone to," he gestured vaguely at the room, "situations like this." Lily looked around at the disaster zone that was her classroom. She looked at Hux, who had started grooming his scales with his tongue, apparently having forgotten the mop entirely. She looked at Pomo, who was now making bubble beards and giggling hysterically. She looked at Tiki, who had convinced 2 other children to join him on the ceiling fixtures in what appeared to be the founding of an aerial civilization. Then she looked back at Calmoth and smiled. It was not a reassuring smile. 2 hours, you said?" "Yes, but Teacher Lily, I do not see how—" "I need you to trust me." Calmoth's mandibles went very, very still. In Krellick's body language, that meant he was either about to molt or experiencing an emotion too complex for his translator to handle. "Trust is," he clicked slowly, "not typically associated with this level of disorder." "No," Lily agreed, rolling up her sleeves. "But you hired a human teacher for a reason. You wanted to see if we could actually integrate multiple species in a childhood education setting. Every other species tried it their way. Logical, structured, completely separated by cultural needs." "Yes, and it failed every time. The children could not bond across species lines. They remained isolated within their own cultural groups." "Right. So you brought in a human because we're really good at one thing." "Creating chaos?" "Making it work anyway." She clapped her hands together, and the sharp sound cut through the ambient noise of children doing questionable things. "All right, everyone, circle time. Yes, that means you too, Tiki. No, Hux, you can bring the mop if you need to. Pomo, bubbles down, right now. Or, so help me, I will introduce you to the concept of boring vegetables." The children, sensing a shift in Lily's tone from tolerant to business mode, began to congregate. It took a few minutes Time moves differently when you're herding multiple species of small beings, but eventually they formed something approximating a circle on the one clear patch of floor remaining. Lily stood in the center and looked at each of them. 15 small faces, well, face equivalents, looking back at her with expressions ranging from curious to concerned to still thinking about Bubbles. "We have a problem," she announced. Hux's ears perked up. "A hunting problem?" "A cleaning problem." 15 small beings groaned in perfect unison. Apparently, disliking cleaning was the true universal constant. "But here's the thing," Lily continued, her voice taking on a tone that every teacher in the universe learns eventually. The tone that says, "I have a plan, and you're going to like it even if you don't think you will. We're going to make it fun." Calmoth, still standing by the door, made a clicking sound that his translator rendered as profound skepticism. Lily ignored him. She'd learned that the best way to handle doubt was to prove it wrong so thoroughly that apologizing became awkward. "We're going to play a game," she said, and watched as the children's attention sharpened. "It's called Team Clean Machine." Tiki raised one of his 6 limbs. "What's a machine?" "Something that works together to accomplish a task. And we," she gestured at all of them, "are going to work together to make this classroom perfect before the important people arrive." Pomo's ears drooped. "But cleaning is boring." "Normally, yes. But we're not going to clean normally. We're going to clean human style." All the children looked at each other with the universal expression of beings who have absolutely no idea what that means, but are intrigued despite themselves. Calmoth's translator emitted what could only be described as a nervous wheeze. And Lily grinned, because this chaos, this disaster, this absolutely perfect mess, was exactly where humanity thrived. "All right, team," she said, her voice full of the kind of confidence that comes from either brilliance or complete delusion. "Let's show the galaxy what we're made of." The thing about humans, and this is important, so pay attention, is that they have this deeply weird habit of looking at problems and deciding the solution is to make them entertaining. Got a war? Add drums and flags? Got taxes? Make a game show about auditing? Got a classroom that looks like a disaster painted by a committee of colorblind chaos demons? Well, obviously, you turn it into a competitive sport with teams, captains, and songs. Lily was already moving, her mind clicking through possibilities faster than Calmoth's translator could keep up. "Okay, first things first. We need teams." She looked around at the 15 children, doing quick mental math. 3 teams of 5. We're going to have Team Sparkle, Team Thunder, and Team Bubbles, Pomo shouted, bouncing up and down with enough force to make the floor vibrate. "Team Bubbles it is," Lily agreed, because picking battles was part of survival. "Each team needs a captain. Captains are responsible for making sure everyone on their team has a job and feels included." Hux's tail swished. "What does a captain do?" "They lead. They help. They make sure nobody gets left behind." "Like a pack leader?" "Exactly like a pack leader." His scales rippled with pleasure. The concept of hierarchy was something the Krelliks understood in their bones. Or scales, technically speaking. "I want to be a captain," Hux announced. "Me too," Tiki chimed in, all 4 eyes bright with enthusiasm. "I want to be captain of Team Bubbles," Pomo declared, as if this were the most obvious thing in the universe. Lily pointed at each of them in turn. "Done, done, and done. Hux, you're captain of Team Thunder. Tiki, you've got Team Sparkle. Pomo, Team Bubbles is all yours. Now, pick your team members." What followed was a selection process that would have made professional sports scouts weep. Hux immediately picked Phiro, the aquatic child, because he looks like he needs protecting, which was possibly the sweetest thing a predator species had ever said. Tiki grabbed Lunix because she can fly and I can climb, so we cover everything. Pomo's selection criteria appeared to be whoever looks like they'd enjoy bubbles, which was, in its own way, perfectly logical. Kalmoth watched from the doorway, his mandibles clicking in patterns his translator couldn't quite capture. Lily suspected he was experiencing multiple emotions simultaneously, none of them confidence-inspiring. Now, Lily continued, clapping her hands together, each team gets a section of the classroom. Team Thunder, you've got the reading corner and left wall. Team Sparkle, you're on ceiling duty and the supply area. Team Bubbles, you've got the floor and the right wall. How do we win? Hux asked, because of course a predator species would want to know the victory conditions. The team that gets their section cleanest wins a prize. What prize? Lily pulled out her secret weapon, a container she'd been saving for emergencies. Inside were small, colorful packets of something humans called gummy snacks. They were technically fruit-flavored gelatin, but to alien children who'd never experienced Earth candy, they might as well have been crystallized happiness. 15 pairs of eyes, or eye equivalents, locked onto that container like it contained the secrets of the universe. Extra dessert time, Lily said, and you get to pick tomorrow's activity. The energy in the room shifted. Suddenly, cleaning wasn't a chore. It was a quest. But here's the catch, Lily added, her voice taking on a theatrical quality. We only have, she checked her comm unit, 1 hour and 48 minutes. So we need to work fast, work smart, and work together. What if we don't finish? Lunix asked, her wings fluttering nervously. Then we all lose, and I have to explain to very serious adults why our classroom looks like an explosion happened inside a rainbow factory. And nobody wants that. Tiki tilted his head. What's a rainbow? I'll show you later. Right now, we clean. She distributed supplies with the efficiency of a general arming troops for battle. Spray bottles of cleaning solution, non-toxic, she'd triple-checked, went to children with opposable thumbs or thumb equivalents. Towels went to everyone. The mop, after some negotiation with Hux about its newly surrendered status, was assigned to Team Thunder. Okay, here's the human secret to cleaning, Lily announced, gathering them all close like she was about to reveal classified information. We make it rhythmic. We add music. We turn it into movement instead of work. Blank stares. Even Kalmoth's antennae drooped in confusion. Like this, Lily said, and started singing one of those aggressively cheerful cleaning songs that every human kindergarten teacher knows by heart. We're wiping and we're scrubbing, making everything shine, working all together. It'll turn out fine. The translator struggled. Translating melody and rhythm across species was like trying to explain color to a rock. Technically possible, but practically absurd. But something in Lily's enthusiasm, in the way she moved while she sang, wiping down a desk in exaggerated motions, it clicked. Pomo started humming along, adding her own melody. Tiki began clicking his limbs in rhythm. Hux's tail swished in time with the beat. And then, miraculously, impossibly, they started cleaning. Team Thunder attacked the reading corner with military precision. Hux organized his team like a hunting party, with Phiro handling low areas where his moisture suit wouldn't get damaged, and 2 other children, a small crystalline being named Lix, and a furry mammalian child called Toph, taking cushions outside to shake off the chromatic paste. Team Sparkle went vertical. Tiki climbed the walls with 3 team members clinging to his back. distributing dust cloths and giggling maniacally. Lunix flew overhead, her wings creating gentle breezes that dried wet spots. Pix, having recovered from panic mode, oozed along the ceiling fixtures like the universe's strangest cleaning solution. Team Bubbles. Well, Team Bubbles was enthusiastic if not exactly efficient. Pomo had the brilliant idea that if a little soap was good, a lot of soap was better. Her teammates were quickly absorbed into what became less a cleaning operation and more a foam-based adventure sport. Pomo, honey, we need to actually clean the floor, not redecorate it with soap sculptures, Lily called out, trying not to laugh. But Miss Lily, this one looks like Calmoth. It did, in fact, look disturbingly like their supervisor. Calmoth's mandibles clicked in what might have been amusement or existential dread. Lily moved between teams, offering guidance, preventing disasters, and occasionally redirecting energy from creative but unhelpful directions. She showed Hux how to wring out a mop instead of treating it like a defeated enemy that needed ritual dismemberment. She taught Ticky's team that dusting meant moving dirt away, not just relocating it to different surfaces. She gently suggested to Pomo that perhaps soap was a tool, not a lifestyle choice. The classroom slowly, incrementally, began to transform. But here's the thing nobody had anticipated. The children were getting absolutely filthy in the process. Hux's scales, normally a pristine gunmetal gray, were now streaked with every color of chromatic paste he'd wiped off surfaces. Ticky looked like he'd been dipped in rainbow tie-dye. Pomo's white fur had gone from fluffy to swampy, weighed down by approximately 83% of her body weight in soap and water. The others weren't much better. Pyro's moisture suit had fogged up from the inside. Lunix's wings dripped with cleaning solution. Pix had accidentally absorbed some of the chromatic paste and was now faintly glowing purple. They were supposed to be cleaning the classroom, but they'd mostly just redistributed the mess from the environment onto themselves. Lily noticed this with growing horror and fascination. The room was getting cleaner, legitimately, actually cleaner, but the children looked like they'd lost a fight with a paint mixer. Calmoth noticed too. His clicking intensified. Teacher Lily, his translator said carefully, the children are... I know. The committee will be here in... I know. This is not... I know. But then, something else happened. Something that made Lily pause mid-panic. Hux was helping Pyro clean his moisture suit visor because the little aquatic child couldn't reach it properly. Ticky had climbed down from the ceiling to show one of the smaller children how to fold towels into neat squares. Pomo was sharing her precious soap bubbles with a child from another team, showing them the proper technique for maximum bubble production. They were working together. Actually, genuinely working together. Not because they were told to, not because it was required, but because somewhere in the chaos of cleaning, of getting messy together, of laughing at soap sculptures and competing for gummy snacks, they'd become a team. Lily looked at Calmoth, and for the first time since the inspection was announced, she smiled with genuine confidence. "Trust the process," she said. His translator emitted a sound that might have been a sigh or might have been a prayer. Murphy's Law is apparently a universal constant, because the Galactic Education Committee arrived exactly 18 minutes early. Because of course they did. The universe has a sense of humor, and that sense of humor is terrible. The door chimed with the kind of authoritative beep that said, "Important people are here, and they're already judging you." Lily looked around the classroom. The good news, it was cleaner. Legitimately, substantially cleaner than it had been an hour ago. The chromatic paste was mostly gone from the walls. The supplies were organized-ish. The floor was visible and not sticky. The ceiling no longer had mysterious stains that defied explanation. The bad news, the children looked like they'd been through a combination car wash, paint factory explosion, and bubble bath gone horribly wrong. Hux's scales were a patchwork of colors that would make a modern artist weep with envy. Pomo had soap foam in places that shouldn't physically be able to hold soap foam. Tiki's 6 limbs were each a different shade of the rainbow. The other children weren't any better. They looked like the before pictures in a cleaning product commercial. Except there wouldn't be an after picture, because they were the mess now. Calmoth's antennae drooped so low they nearly touched the floor. "We are," his translator said quietly, "profoundly doomed." "Possibly," Lily admitted, "but let's find out together." The door opened, 3 beings entered, and each one radiated authority like a space heater radiated warmth, impossible to ignore, and vaguely uncomfortable if you got too close. First came HFY, a crystalline entity that looked like someone had given sentience to a chandelier, and that chandelier had opinions about regulatory compliance. Their body was composed of interlocking geometric shapes that shifted colors based on mood or thought. Right now, they were cycling through shades of amber and red, which Lily's cultural briefing had taught her meant skeptical and mildly annoyed. Next was Hombatu, an amphibious being roughly the size and shape of a large boulder, if boulders had webbed hands and throat sacs that inflated when they were thinking. His skin was a mottled green-blue, slick with moisture, and his eyes, large and unblinking, took in every detail of the room with methodical precision. Finally came Ulfrex, floating about 5 feet off the ground like gravity was a suggestion she'd chosen to ignore. Her body was translucent and gelatinous, with bioluminescent organs pulsing inside like a lava lamp designed by an alien intelligence. Tentacles drifted around her in slow, hypnotic patterns, and her lack of visible eyes somehow made her stare even more intense. They looked at the classroom. They looked at the children. They looked at Lily. HFY's crystalline structure shifted to a deep purple, the color of profound disappointment. "This is," HFY said, their voice like wind chimes having a nervous breakdown, "the multi-species integration program?" "Yes," Lily said, stepping forward with the confidence of someone who'd already committed to the bit and was going to see it through, even if it killed her. "Welcome to Classroom 6B. We were just finishing up our afternoon activities." "Activities," Hombatu repeated, his throat sac inflating slowly. The children appeared to have bathed in cleaning supplies. "We were learning about teamwork through practical application," Lily said, which was technically true if you squinted and tilted your head and maybe had consumed some questionable substances. Ulfrex floated closer, her tentacles extending toward Pomo, who was still dripping foam. "The Otharian child is 86% soap by volume." She was very enthusiastic about her assigned task. "This is unacceptable," HFY announced, their color shifting to angry crimson. "We were informed that human teaching methods would provide structure and discipline. What we observe is chaos wearing a name tag." Calmoth stepped forward, his mandibles clicking in what Lily recognized as the preamble to a formal apology or resignation speech. She'd heard him practicing both in his office. But, before he could speak, Hux stepped forward. The little Krelix, still covered in chromatic paste, clutching a towel like a warrior's banner, planted himself between Lily and the committee with his tail held high. "Miss Lily is a good teacher," he said, his young voice carrying the kind of conviction that came from believing something with your entire heart. The committee members looked down at him. HFY's colors flickered to surprised yellow. "Young one," Hombatu said gently, We are conducting an official evaluation. I know what you're doing, Hux interrupted, which was either incredibly brave or incredibly foolish. You're deciding if we get to stay together, if we get to keep learning with Miss Lily. The program's viability is under review, yes, Ulfrex confirmed, her bioluminescent organs pulsing thoughtfully. Then, you need to know something. Hux looked back at the other children, who were watching with wide eyes. Before Miss Lily, I was scared of everyone who wasn't Krelix. My parents told me other species were weak, that we shouldn't waste time understanding them. Lily's heart squeezed. She hadn't known that. But Miss Lily taught me that different doesn't mean dangerous. She taught me that Fyro needs help sometimes because his suit gets foggy, and that's okay because I need help sometimes too when I can't reach high things. She taught me that Pomo is strong even though she looks soft, and that Tiki can climb but needs friends on the ground to hand him things. Tiki skittered forward, adding his voice. My family said other species were competition, that we should stay with our own kind because they understand us. But Miss Lily made us work together, and now Lunix is my friend, even though she flies and I climb. We're different, but we're the same too. Pomo bounced forward, shedding soap foam with each movement. Miss Lily lets us be messy. My old teacher said mess was bad, that we had to be clean and quiet and separate. But today we got really, really messy, and we worked together, and it was the best day ever. Even though we're dirty? Ixfal asked, their crystalline form shifting to curious green. Especially because we're dirty, Pomo insisted. We got dirty making things clean. That's teamwork. The logic was sound in a way that completely bypassed traditional reasoning and landed somewhere in the realm of profound truth. Fyro spoke up next, his voice muffled through his foggy visor. Miss Lily asks about my moisture levels every hour. The other teachers forgot because I'm the only aquatic species. They said I was too complicated to include. But Miss Lily includes everyone. One by one, the children stepped forward, adding their voices. Some spoke of learning to share supplies across species barriers. Others talked about games that worked for different body types. Lunix mentioned the friendship chart they'd made, where they'd drawn pictures of each other and written, or had Lily write, what made each person special. The committee listened in silence. Calmoth's mandibles had stopped clicking entirely. He was frozen in shock. Then Lily stepped forward, and when she spoke, her voice carried the weight of every teacher who'd ever believed that education was about more than test scores and compliance. You want to know why human teaching methods work? She asked. It's not because we're more structured. We're not. Human children are basically tiny chaos agents who have to be taught that pants are not optional and that biting is not an appropriate conflict resolution strategy. Hombatu's throat sac inflated with what might have been amusement. But humans learned something important back on Earth, where everything with teeth wanted to eat us, and the weather was actively trying to kill us on a rotating schedule. We learned that survival means working together, even when, especially when, you're different. Lily gestured at the children, still messy, still dripping, still glowing faintly in some cases. You've been trying to integrate childhood education for generations, using logic and structure and separation by needs. And it failed every time, because you treated differences as problems to solve, instead of strengths to combine. These kids? She pointed at them with fierce pride. They don't care that Hux is a predator species, or that Pomo's people historically competed with Tiki's people for territory. They care that Hux shares his snacks, that Pomo makes everyone laugh, that Tiki can reach the high shelves. But the mess, Ixfal said, gesturing at the children. The disorder, the lack of, the mess is the point. Lily's voice rose with passion. They got messy together. They made mistakes together. They laughed and worked and helped each other, and yeah, they redistributed the dirt from the classroom onto themselves. But look around. The classroom is clean, and more importantly, look at them. Really look. The committee did, and what they saw was Hux standing protectively near Phiro, Tiki holding hands, well, limbs, with Lunix, Pomo sharing her towel with a smaller child, Pix, the gelatinous child who'd been too scared to interact at the beginning of class, now standing confidently among the group. They saw 15 children from 8 different species, covered in soap and paint and questionable stains, standing together as a unit. "Impressive rhetoric," Ulfrex said slowly, her tentacles curling thoughtfully. "But can this model scale? Can it be replicated? Can you teach others to do what you do?" Hombatu clarified, his throat sac deflating as he relaxed slightly. Lily grinned. "That's the beautiful thing about human methods. They're not special. They're just willing to embrace controlled chaos long enough for connections to form. Any species can learn it. They just have to accept that sometimes the best way forward is through the mess, not around it." Ixfel's colors cycled through the entire spectrum, processing. Hombatu's throat sac inflated and deflated in rhythmic thought. Ulfrex's bioluminescent organs pulsed in complex patterns. Then Ixfel spoke, and their colors settled on bright, brilliant blue, the shade of decision made. "We need to deliberate." The 3 committee members huddled together, speaking in frequencies and languages that Lily's translator couldn't quite capture. She stood with Calmoth and the children, waiting, heart pounding. Pomo tugged on Lily's jumpsuit. "Did we win?" she whispered. Lily looked down at the little Otharian, still covered in soap, still hopeful. "We'll see, sweetie. We'll see." The silence stretched like taffy being pulled in zero gravity, thin, uncomfortable, and possibly about to snap at any moment. The committee huddled together in their deliberation, a bizarre tableau of crystalline geometry, amphibious contemplation, and floating bioluminescence. Occasionally, one of them would gesture or pulse or inflate various body parts in ways that suggested intense debate. The translator caught fragments: unprecedented approach, cultural paradigm, regulatory implications, and once, distinctly, the small furry one makes a compelling point about bubbles. The children fidgeted. Hux's tail swished nervously. Tiki's limbs tapped out an anxious rhythm on the floor. Pomo had gone very still, which was somehow more alarming than her usual kinetic energy. Lily stood with her hands clasped behind her back, projecting calm authority, while internally running through worst-case scenarios and mentally composing the resume she'd need if this all went sideways. Calmoth beside her was clicking so rapidly his translator had given up trying to interpret and was just emitting a steady hum of distress. Finally, after what felt like 6 months, but was probably closer to 5 minutes, the committee broke apart and turned to face them. Ixfel floated forward, their crystalline structure now a swirling mix of colors that Lily couldn't read. Her cultural briefing packet hadn't covered Rainbow Committee member as a mood indicator. "We have reached a decision," Ixfel announced. Lily's fingernails dug into her palms. "After careful consideration of the evidence presented, observation of the student interactions, and evaluation of the teaching methodology employed." Oh, stars! They were doing the dramatic pause thing. Lily was going to die of suspense before they got to the actual verdict. "We have determined that this program will not only continue. Calmuth's clicking stopped entirely. Lily's breath caught. But will be expanded galaxy-wide as the new standard for multi-species childhood integration. There was a beat of absolute silence. Then Pomo screamed with joy so loudly that 3 different species' auditory organs registered protest. And suddenly, all 15 children were jumping and cheering and hugging each other in a tangle of limbs and scales and fur and gelatinous pseudopods. Lily felt her knees go weak with relief. Hombatu's throat sac inflated to maximum capacity. Furthermore, Teacher Lily will be appointed as Director of Human Integration Methodology, responsible for training other instructors in these techniques. Calmuth will be promoted to Overseer of the Galactic Integration through Childhood Initiative, Ulfrex added, her organs pulsing with what might have been approval. Your organizational skills combined with human innovative chaos will be formidable. Calmuth made a sound his translator rendered as surprised choking. But, Ixfel continued, their colors sharpening to serious orange, we must understand something. For generations, we attempted integration through logic, through careful planning, through species-separated facilities with scheduled, supervised interactions. Every attempt failed because we treated cultural differences as obstacles requiring management. The crystalline being looked at the children, still celebrating, still messy, still absolutely covered in evidence of their chaotic cleaning adventure. You succeeded because you treated differences as assets requiring collaboration. You didn't try to make them the same. You made them work together because of, their differences. The mess, Hombatu rumbled thoughtfully, was never the problem. Our fear of the mess was the problem. Chaos, properly directed, builds bonds that order never could, Ulfrex concluded. This is a lesson we should have learned millennia ago. Lily found her voice, still shaky with relief and surprise. So, you're really expanding this? Other stations? Other teachers? 300 stations have already submitted requests for human education consultants, Ixfel confirmed. The waiting list grows hourly. Apparently, word of your methods has spread through unofficial parent communication networks. Other species are sending their children here, Hombatu added. We have applications from families across 12 sectors. Calmuth's translator finally rebooted. This is extraordinary. This is unprecedented. I need to sit down. There weren't any chairs his size nearby. He sat on the floor instead, which somehow made the moment more surreal. The committee departed with formal congratulations and promises of resource allocations and bureaucratic support. The door closed behind them with a gentle hiss. Lily looked at her classroom. Cleaner than before, but not perfect, never perfect. And at her students, messy and tired and happy, and felt something warm settle in her chest. All right, team, she said, clapping her hands. One last task for today. 15 groans in 8 different languages. We need to clean you up before your parents see you and think I've been using you for scientific experiments. That got laughs. The next hour was spent hosing down, metaphorically and, in Pomo's case, literally, the children and getting them presentable for pickup. Parents arrived, shocked and delighted to hear their children chattering excitedly about their friends from other species, about teamwork, about Miss Lily, and the great cleaning adventure. One parent, a Krelix dignitary, who'd initially protested having their son in a mixed-species program, stood in stunned silence as Hux introduced Phiro as my best friend who I protect, because that's what friends do. When the last child had been collected, and the classroom was finally, truly quiet. Lily collapsed into her chair. Calmoth, still processing his promotion and the day's events, stood in the doorway. "Teacher Lily, Director Lily, how did you know it would work?" Lily laughed, exhausted and triumphant. "I didn't. I just knew that human kids are walking disasters who somehow learn to be functional adults anyway. I figured alien kids couldn't be that different." "That's not particularly scientific." "No," she agreed, "but it worked." Her comm unit buzzed. A video call from Earth, Tessa, her friend who'd thought she was insane for taking an off-world teaching position. Lily accepted the call. Tessa's face appeared, grinning. "So, how's teaching aliens to clean?" Lily looked around the classroom, clean but lived in, organized but welcoming, structured but flexible. She looked at the friendship chart still on the wall, the team captain badges she'd made from recycled materials, the schedule that now permanently included organized chaos time as an official daily activity. "I'm not teaching them to clean," Lily said slowly, the realization settling over her like a comfortable blanket. "I'm teaching them that getting dirty together is how you figure out you're not so different after all." Tessa blinked. "That's weirdly profound for someone covered in alien soap." "It's been a day." "Are they keeping the program?" "Expanding it." Apparently, humanity's greatest contribution to galactic civilization is the revolutionary concept that controlled chaos builds better relationships than forced order. Tessa laughed. "We're teaching aliens that making messes is good? That's the most human thing I've ever heard." "Right?" Lily grinned. "We looked at thousands of years of alien educational philosophy and said, but have you tried just letting them be kids? Together? They're going to build statues of you. They're going to build therapy practices for dealing with the stress. But yeah, probably statues too." They talked for a few more minutes before Lily signed off, promising to send pictures of her students once she'd taken some that didn't make it look like she was running a paint-based cult. Alone in the quiet classroom, Lily pulled up the next day's lesson plan on her tablet. She added a note at the top. "Remember, the mess is the point. They don't learn from being perfect. They learn from being perfectly imperfect together." Then she added one more line, grinning as she typed. "Also, hide the soap from Pomo. Lock it up. Seriously, she has a problem." Outside the window, the station rotated slowly, stars wheeling past in their eternal dance. Somewhere out there, 300 stations were preparing for human teachers. Thousands of alien children would soon experience the bizarre joy of getting messy, working together, and discovering that differences weren't walls. They were bridges, if you were willing to cross them. And it all started because one human teacher looked at a disaster of a classroom and thought, "Yeah, we can work with this." The universe, in its infinite complexity and occasional wisdom, had just learned what human kindergarten teachers had known all along. The best way to clean up a mess is to make a bigger one first, together, until nobody remembers whose mess it was in the first place. Humanity's gift to the galaxy wasn't advanced technology or military might or philosophical enlightenment. It was the radical idea that chaos, managed with love and snacks and ridiculous cleaning songs, builds stronger bonds than order ever could. And that, ladies and gentlemen, and sentient jellyfish, and crystalline bureaucrats, and anyone else listening, is how humanity taught the galaxy that sometimes the answer isn't to avoid the mess. Sometimes the answer is to jump in with both feet, 6 limbs, or whatever appendages you've got, and trust that you'll figure it out together. The classroom lights dimmed for evening cycle. Lily smiled, grabbed her bag, and headed home. Tomorrow, they'd make new messes. And that was exactly the point.